Hello, America. Thank you for joining us for our Terrible Tuesday baking show, No Bake Edition. Today we are going to be making no-bake chocolate cookies. These are some of my favorite cookies, great for parties, social events, or your own enjoyment pleasure. You can make them in approximately 15 minutes, and they're usually ready to eat about 5 minutes after that. So we're going to start with 1 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup milk, 2 tablespoons of cocoa. I'm using Hershey's Cocoa Natural Unsweetened. And half a stick of butter. I am using Kerrygold Pure Irish Butter, unsalted. Unlike regular baking, we'll be using the stove and not the oven. We will be heating everything to a boil over the stove, which will be providing the catalyst reaction for us. As a result, it's very helpful to have everything prepped before time, not like I did with the butter. So now we have everything in the pan. I usually bring it up to about a medium high, about a 9. You want to bring it to a boil, but I don't want it so high, so hot that it's going to burn or spoil everything. You don't want it too hot, it can crisp or burn it. So you just want to mix everything together. As it starts moving around, this is important too because you have a lot of dry ingredients. If you hit the bottom, they will can char and burn a little bit. So as long as you just keep moving around the butter and the milk, you will be fine. So this step does take a little while. We want to prep our stopwatches now because when we get to a full boil, we want it to bring to a full boil for exactly 1 minute. You also want to prep 1/4 cup of peanut butter. I am using Skippy Natural Peanut Butter. It doesn't have something in it that normal peanut butter has, which is bad for you. I don't know what it's called, but you can look it up. I do prefer the natural peanut butter since they don't have that random bad thing. We already talked about the cocoa. You also need to prep half a teaspoon of vanilla. I am using pure vanilla. You can get this in Mexico for much cheaper than you can get it in El Americano. So if you're ever in the neighborhood, definitely pick up some. You will also want salt. I am using iodized salt. And you will need 1 pinch of that. The salt is where you have a lot of freedom in this mixture. If you add a little bit of salt, they'll be very moist and tacky. It's good if you're making the cookies for the next day or to eat over the next couple of days because they'll dry out a little slower. It also gives you more time to prepare them and serve them as you spoon them out into circles. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility. If you add too much salt, your spooning out time is going to be a lot shorter, so you have to move a lot quicker. And they also make the cookies a lot drier and flakier. That's very good if you want cookies to eat in like 15 minutes. You need them to dry right now. Or if you just prefer like a crumbly or softer cookie. I prefer in the middle where they're not tacky and sticky, but they're still pretty moist and they don't crumble or fall apart in your hands. So that's usually like 1 solid pinch, not like a half pinch or 2 pinches. So I'm just moving everything now to get it nice and even. The full boil is when the entire surface is like a rolling, bubbling boil. You'll start to see a couple bubbles on the edges, and you can keep stirring it and just wait till it bubbles and boils over the entire surface. So we also want 1.5 cups of quick oats. You do want to use quick oats. I've tried it with normal oats, and that does not work. They turn out very chewy. So definitely don't do that. I can talk about the milk as well. I have tried various milk alternatives. So if you have one that's lactose intolerant or doesn't drink milk, chooses not to drink milk, doesn't want to drink milk, you can use lactose-free milk, you can use coconut milk. I'm currently using coconut milk right now, unsweetened vanilla, and the cookies still turn out delicious. So really do whatever you want there. I do recommend using butter, not margarine. I can always tell the difference. I definitely prefer the taste of real butter, but that's a different price point, so it's up to you. So because unlike baking, in which you mix everything together and nothing really happens until you put it in the oven, so you can really take as much time as you want, the catalyst reaction is happening right here on the stove. Once you apply heat and bring it to a boil, that's what causes everything to catalyze and then solidify. So you really want to make sure you have everything measured out, like with the oats, especially the peanut butter, because once we get moving, things will move rather quickly. So it helps a lot just have everything aligned out in front of you. I do have no-stick baking sheets that I use to spoon the cookies out into. I prefer that a lot because there's no cleanup or mess. I can just spoon up to that. They wash off really easily. You can also use parchment paper, wax paper, aluminum foil. I prefer the cooking sheets just because they are washable and reusable, so it's a little bit less waste on that. So I'm starting to see a couple bubbles in here now. I would show you, but I attached my camera to a 20-pound dumbbell. I don't feel like lifting it up, so I apologize. Okay, so that is a full boil. So start your timers. And now we have 1 minute at full boil. Keep stirring during this step. Make sure you are scraping the edges. I will cheat and I'll start spooning out the peanut butter about 45 seconds just because this step is so critical, and that usually does take me a couple seconds to get all the peanut butter out. So timing is critical in this, and speed is critical, especially in the serving and spooning out stage, because you don't want it to dry and set in the pan. For that matter, I usually do keep it on the burner as long as possible just to keep the heat so it doesn't cool down too quickly. We are at 40 seconds. Okay, so I am going to start scooping out the peanut butter. I'm going to go ahead and throw that in and just get another pass. And we are at 1 minute. So heat is off. I keep it on the burner. Make sure you stir that peanut butter very thoroughly. The peanut butter is what causes these to set. That's what causes them to be solid and hold everything together. So you really want to make sure that's very smooth and evenly distributed. You don't want to see any peanut butter clumps. When I get the peanut butter about half mixed, I will add my vanilla. This is half a teaspoon of vanilla. Next, I will add my salt. I usually add my salt last because that will also allow it to catalyze and cause it to start drying. So you don't want to add that in too early. So that's what starts them to dry out. And again, it is relative on how fast they dry out and how much salt you add in. So salt is in. I pre-measured that earlier. That's not a third cup of salt. You want to add in your oats next. You want to add your oats in very slowly as you're stirring, just to make sure they're very evenly distributed. And you coat all sides. When you don't longer see any white oat pieces, you know you can add more. So. And then I will grab some kind of spoon to start distributing these out. So they are evenly mixed now. I will remove it from the heat so they can start to set up. And I'll start spooning it out. I'll just use a spatula spoon combo. You can make whatever portion size you prefer. I prefer to make them based on the size of my audiences. So if you have a very small group, I'll make a small number of very large cookies. But if you're making it for a large group, a large party setting, I'll make much smaller but a much larger quantity, because people can always come back for seconds, thirds, fourths, even fifths, and eat as many as they want. But that way the cookies can go a little bit further, or people can try them if they see if they like them. But honestly, everyone likes these. So